This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, good morning. It's great to be back. Chazdei Hashem. I want to dedicate the shir for the Tzaraat of Ben Zion. Ben Dosa, him and his family should see open and revealed Siyata Dishmaya. Should only know Yeshua's and Nechamos and Metz Hashem. Chodesh Tov to all. Chodesh of Geula. Imer Tzei Hashem. Parshas Tazria, Parshas Metzora. Some wild questions and answers in halacha, riddles, stories. And we'll start with a Maaseh, with a Tiferet Shloima. The pasuk discusses Bris Mila. V'yom Hashmini Yimol Besar Olasoi. Bris Mila on the 8th day. So a Yid once came to invite the Tiferet Shloima to be the sandak in his son's bris. Tiferet Shloima knew that this guy is a Rasha Merusha. He does all the Averos in the Torah. So he refused. So the man says to him, Rabbi, it's a mitzvah. How can you say no to a mitzvah? So Tiferet Shloima says, no. So I'll have one mitzvah less. One less mitzvah is fine. I have a lot of mitzvahs. So the guy says to him, but wait a second. It's not just that you're not doing a mitzvah. If I'm inviting you and you refuse, so that's an avera. The Tiferet Shloima says, look at you. So stingy. You have so many averas. And you makpid on me that I'm not going to even have one avera? No. So I'll have one avera. Bris Mila. The pasuk in Zechariah Perek Tes, pasuk Yud Aleph. Gamat, bedam brisech, you too, with the blood of your covenant, shilachti asiraich, I freed your prisoners, mibor in mayim bo, from a pit that there's no water there. What is this talking about? The Ramban writes that this pasuk is alluding to ikvesa de Mashiach, footsteps of Mashiach. Mibor en mayim bo, that means, what is mayim? Mayim is always a reference to Torah. Shneimar, Roy kol tzameh lechul hamayim, Tanis daf zayin amud aleph, en mayim el Torah. He says in the last door that the Geula will come. People are going to be chayav. There's not going to be any mitzvahs that they're fulfilling except Bris Mila. Shilachti asiraich, I will free your prisoners from the galus. For what? For what reason? For what merit? Dam brisech, for the blood of your covenant, the dam of Bris Mila. There's going to be a lot of chutzpah yizge, a lot of brazenness, and people are going to be chayav. But they're still going to be doing Bris Mila, and for that merit we will be redeemed. Before the Ramban is a Gemara. Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Lamed says, Kol mitzvah shekiblu alayhem besimcha, any mitzvah the Klal Yisrael accepted on themselves with simcha, they still do it today with simcha. Bris Mila is an example the Gemara brings. Sas anoichi alimatecha, that talks about Bris Mila. So we accepted it with simcha, we still do it with simcha. If you think about it, it makes no sense. If a person is off the derech, the last thing that he should choose is to do a dangerous operation for an 8-day-old baby. What do you think about? And yet you see that no matter what, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Everybody is involved in a Bris Mila, the people who are so far away, which is exactly what the Ramban predicted, which is exactly what the Gemara itself says, which is mamish unbelievable. You see, this is a prophecy. How is it possible to predict that people are going to be in 2,000 years later so far away, distant from the Torah, and yet they're going to do Bris Mila? If this is not a clear prophecy from the one who gave us this obligation, which is, I think, is mamish remarkable. And Mitzvah Hashem, for the merit of Bris Mila, we will be redeemed. Listen to a shayla about Bris Mila. There's a father who adopted a baby. Baby was sick for a while, and now it's time to do the Bris Mila. Baby is healed. Since he adopted this kid, they didn't tell anyone, and they're not going to tell the kid, at least for the first few years, because they don't want this kid to feel that everybody's treating them differently because he's an adopted kid. So they're making believe that he's completely, one of their children. They moved to a different neighborhood, so people won't know them. We can have a fresh start. Everybody will think this kid is our child. Now comes the Bris Mila. The father of the baby, when he is in the shul, the bris is not going to be in the shul, but the father is there this morning. There's no Tachanun. So this guy asks, what about me? Do I exempt the tzibur from Tachanun? It's an adopted kid, it's not my son. I'm not Avi Haben, I'm Avi Haben HaMe'umatz, the adopted kid. Am I exempting everybody from Tachanun this morning or not? And if you're going to tell me not, and if you're going to tell me yes, you do exempt everybody, I'm sorry. If you tell me no, you don't exempt, what am I going to answer when people afterwards ask me, wait a second, don't you have a bris milah for your son today? How come we said Tachanun? I thought Avi Ben exempts everybody, because you're trying to make believe that he really is your son. So what do we do with this? Does he exempt people from saying Tachanun this morning or not?
You can find another reason. You can find another reason for exempting people from Tachanun, like the holidays, the seating. You could say today's the outside convention, so we don't say Tachanun.
That means they will never say Tachanun, because every single day, as I always say, for someone. And if it's suddenly accepted in the shul, so that's it. Finish with Tachanun. Today is a Yotzarav. If they're not Hasidim, you cannot accept this type of a thing. Otherwise, there's no end.
What's the issue of saying Tachanun? There's a father of Brit.
I didn't say there's an issue. But if Avia Ben is there, the Moyer or the Sandak, we don't say Tachanun. If you're going to say Tachanun, people are going to say, what? Don't you have a priest? So you're not Avia Ben? He's trying to hide that's an adopted kid for the benefit of the kid.
You should take the Sandak for himself.
He's not going to be the Sandak. Baruch Hashem, he invited Godol Adot to be the Sandak. And that's a big toilet for the kid. Baruch Hashem. You're trying to diffuse the question, and I'm trying to deal with the question. Does the adopted father exempt us from saying Tachanun this morning or not?
Yes, it's his simcha.
It's his simcha. What is this, my simcha?
Sharing. Sharing is
He's sharing a simcha. He's saying, what's the difference between a real father and one who adopts? What's the difference? The real one, he is besimcha, and therefore we are all nigrar, we are all sharing the simcha with him. An adoptive father is the same idea, same mitzvah. So we're all sharing the same simcha. Is that what you're saying?
I beg to differ.
You don't like it.
I think that he can't take the schut to say Tachanun. There's no valid reason.
It's a big schus to say Tachanun. In fact, Kaf HaChaim, in the Stimen in Kuf Lamed Aleph, I believe, in the Tachanun, he brings the merits that Tachanun does. Many people, when there is no Tachanun, say, oh Hashem, 2 more minutes, yeesh, I'm out of here, 2 minutes earlier. Thursday? 5-6 minutes earlier. And they don't know the unbelievable merits. Maybe once we spoke about it. He brings five things, I think, 5 different things that are happening upstairs when we say Tachanun. It's a very, very propitious time when we say Tachanun.
stay home, right?
However, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, almost every day didn't have to say Tachanun because he was a Sandak almost every day, many times, multiple times in one day. But when he wasn't a Sandak, he actually looked for somebody, a Moyel, a Sandak, a different one, to come to his minyan, because he held when we don't say Tachanun, it's like a Yontif. There's no Midas Adin. No. So there is something to say for those people who are excited when there's no Tachanun. Not because they're running out of shul 2 minutes early, because it's a shtickle Yontif. Not because of that. I'm not happy about that. We like connecting to Kodesh Baruch Hu and talking to him. But, so you're saying, you have a schus. He wants to give that schus of a yontif to the whole tzibur.
But the rest of it, if the child will be, everyone's going to find out that the child is adopted, it's also an issue.
It's also an issue which is not so beneficial to the kid itself, according to what he...
That the kid was made.
That I'm not sure about.
What would be if someone was doing a bris milah on their head like Avraham Avinu did? Would then, if you know the Tachanun, would it be the same Tachanun?
Good question. What if you do a bris milah to your Eved? I don't think so. But I don't recall a clear source. In Siman Kuf Lamed Aleph, I don't recall that the poskim discussed this. It's a great question. I don't think so, though. I'm sorry? Eved Levi what? Eved Knani. And he's asking, what if you were mulling the Eved Knani? Is that the same simcha like a regular Jewish boy 8 days old? I don't think so, but we need to find the source. That's a great question. Baba Yisai, yes Tachanun, no Tachanun.
There's also status of father also to someone who teaches his son Torah, no?
And therefore?
Therefore...
So you're saying he really is the father?
Therefore, if he's planning on raising him, I mean, I don't know how old the boy is at this age.
So this kid yelshins him?
No, I'm saying, but he might have the status, the special status of a father, even though he might be called a father.
So if you have 5 rabbis that taught you Torah, you have 6 parents? 6 fathers? How does that work? And you have to yalshin from each one of them.
It says in the Mishnah that the love to the Talmud is like his father.
True. Sanhedrin New Test. Right. כל המלמד בן חבר הטועל מה הלב על הכוסו כאילו ילדו. But not to all intents and purposes. Beis Yosef writes in Simin Kuf Lamed Aleph, which is Nefilas Apayim, he brings from Shibbolei Haleket, one of the Rishonim. What's the reason we don't say Tachanun in a shul where there's going to be a bris milah? Whether you have the father, the moyel, or the sandak, they're not here today. In the morning when we're davening, but they're going to be a bris here today. We don't say Tachanun. The reason is because it's a mitzvah to be happy with them. Just like the Mishnah Berurah writes regarding the Chassan, it's a mitzvah for all of us to share his simcha, and the simcha just extends and expands to all those who are present. So since everybody is besimcha here with the bris milah, even though you're not biologically the father of this kid, it's the same idea. Everybody is besimcha. Also, it's not such a big mistake that he's going to say, this is my kid, because he says אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להכניסו בבריסו של אברהם אבינו. The adopting father says this bracha. How can he say אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו? Who commanded you? They commanded the father. But lemaise HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded him as well. Because when there is no father, it's a mitzvah on the Beis Din to say it. He is now stepping in instead of the Beis Din. It's a mitzvah on Klal Yisrael. He is now representing us, representing the Beis Din who would do it otherwise. So since he's taking upon himself to educate him, he's like a father. That's what Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says, and therefore he says the bracha. If he says the bracha, he's mamish like a father. More than that, we can add what the Darkei Moshe writes, a big chiddush. He doesn't seem to agree to this chiddush, but he brings from Rishonim that there was a minhag that anytime there's a bris in town, you don't say Tachanun, because Eliyahu Novi is coming to town. And this is based on the Medrash, Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer Perek Chavtes, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Eliyahu, you're saying that my nation don't keep my covenant? Chayecha. You'll see, you're going to have to come to every single bris, and you'll see that they actually are upholding the covenant. It's a machlokes if it's a punishment or it's a reward. Because he was zealous for HaKadosh Baruch Hu regarding the covenant, he is going to merit to see people doing bris milah, or it's a punishment. You said something nasty about my kids, you're going to have to go. So Mila, Eliyahu Navi comes to town, there is a minhag that the entire town, in a big town like we have, you would never do Tachanun, ever. The Darkei Moshe, the Ramah, doesn't seem to agree with this, but it does exist, and therefore maybe we could be mitzareh if this is that. So, lichoya, it works. But we also have 2 eitzes to make it a little smoother. First of all, when it comes time to Tachanun, 2 seconds before, the father can go out of the shul. For a second. Since it's not going to be in the shul today, the father is not here, we do say Tachanun. He goes out for 2 minutes. Or make the bris in the shul, and then even if he is not the real father, even if the father is not here, you don't say Tachanun, so this is where we get out of it.
I said the Gemara on Kedushin, and I think on the class, and it says there, and I think the last week, and it says there that when you so the first 8 days, the father is in charge of this. Then the Beis Din, I want to know until when the Beis Din is in charge.
Until the kid is 13, and then he has to do it.
I heard that there's a minhag also in Chav, the offer Brit Mila, some places don't say that, I don't know.
Big machlokes. Once the bris was done, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, it's not shaykh already to mincha. If it's going to be just before mincha, so then you won't say it, if it's in that same shul.
Brian Watson once told a story. He stayed over in Russia, and there was a group of about 20 boys, all about 13 years old. They had never had a bris. Right? It wasn't allowed. They'd kill you, they'd kidnap you if they had a bris. So they were making one bris one way. They asked him to stay over an extra night so he could be there. He told over how each one of these boys was so excited. I want to go first. I want to go first. I want to go first.
Zrizin Magdim in the mitzvahs. Oh, Hashem. Ve'im nekeva zeilet. Baby girl is born. Why is she called nekeva? I think we once spoke about the zachar. Comes from the root of zachar, because he has better memory. What about a nekeva? Why is a nekeva called nekeva? Psikta zutesa medesh my nekeva naki va. In other words, she's empty. She's clear out of mitzvahs because she's not obligated in the positive time-bound mitzvahs. She is like naki leves naki va. She is clear out. She has less mitzvahs than the man, and therefore she is called nekeva. What's that? He has to do 613. She is exempt from 30 positive time-bound mitzvahs. Mitzvahs answer, she has man gaman, she's exempt, so she has less mitzvahs, and therefore she's called nekeva. What is, if you would have to single out one thing that causes one to be distant from a Kodesh Baruch Hu, a major thing? A lot of different things. Every Aveira obviously distances you from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. But if you had to single out one, what would you put your finger on? One thing which is like, there's nothing like it that causes distance. What's that?
Not giving you sunburst.
Why would you say that? So that's more than killing someone? That's more than Giloy Arayos? Chilul Hashem sounds good. I also think like that. Lashon Hara is terrible. Who told you? Why is it worse than killing somebody? So you're saying a person said one word about someone, and then he is also a serial killer on the side. So that Lashon Hara is worse? Is that what you're saying? You're thinking like you're a Chaim HaKodesh. His language is not to be believed. Listen to the language. There is nothing that distances a person from his creator. Keloshon hara. Not to be believed. Based on that, we can ask some shaylos about Loshon hara, but before that, when a person has tzaras, it's a result, erchin tezayin, of Loshon hara. He has to come to the Kohen analyzes the lesion, and he decides if he is tameh or tahor, right? Why does it have to be this way? Why does he have to come to the Kohen, and the Kohen looks at him, tahor, tameh? Our dear friend, you all know him, David Shlita, David's here sometimes. Achidish, mida keneged mida. Why did the person get tzaras? Because he spoke Lashon hara. Why did he speak Lashon hara? Because he chose to use his eyes to look at the negative character traits and all the faults, all the shortcomings of that person that he spoke about, instead of using it for positive things. Look at all the advantages. Look at all the positive character traits this guy has. No. I'm going to misuse my eyes. So now he's going to have to come to the Kohen and learn all about the essence and the importance of how one views one another. And everything is going to be dependent on the Kohen's eyes, who's going to decide if he's tameh or tahor. He was mezalzel in the koyach of the eye. Mida keneged mida, measure for measure, re'iyah keneged re'iyah, seeing for seeing. He's going to have to be dependent on somebody else seeing him.
That means you don't have to say it.
Lashon hara is saying. Because he said Lashon hara, he got tzaras.
Looking and then thinking, is that enough?
Why did he get tzaras? It's wrong to think, you're right, but why did he get tzaras? Because he spoke Lashon hara. So we understand, and I think we spoke about it in the past, why the person has to go to the Kohen. But I don't think we ever spoke about the reverse. Why does the Kohen have to be involved in looking at other people's lesions? It's kind of embarrassing. It's degrading to the Kohen. Excuse me, can you take your pants off? I want to see your lesion. It's embarrassing. Why does the Kohen have to be involved in this? He is an Ayin Tov, but why do you have to be mevazeh him to be involved in these type of things? Go to the doctor.
Cohen was a doctor.
What about a Kohen who's not a doctor? He's not a doctor. He just knows these halachos. Why does he have to be involved with this? Shal of the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim al Torah brings an unbelievable medrash. The medrash says, the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught Moshe Rabbeinu, Parshas Negaim, the halachos of Tzaras, Moshe said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what? V'chi Aaron achi yisbaze liros hanega? My brother Aaron should be disgraced now that he has to be the one checking Negaim? It's disgraceful. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds, why are you so surprised? Doesn't he take 24 matanos kehuna? We give the Kohen, we support him. Chafetz Chaim explains, if you're going to be honored because of the Torah, you're honored by us. We support you. We give you things. So therefore you have to be willing to sacrifice and to be disgraced for the sake of Torah. You're going to be the one teaching Hilchos Negayim because you're honored by the Torah. You have to be willing to sacrifice and to be disgraced for the Torah.
Is there any, someone stopped himself from saying Lashon hara, and he wanted to let people know, I'm just about to say Lashon hara, and I stopped myself. Is that something a person should do?
That's something that a person should not do. That's something that a person should not do. In fact, I think 2 or 3 years ago we asked a riddle. How could it be that a person says, I don't want to do Avera, I'm not going to do the Avera, I don't want to do it, and with that he's doing an Avera. When you're asking someone, tell me, what do you think about Reuven? I don't want to tell you. I don't want to say the Avera of Lashon Hara. What did you just do? Say, I have a lot of things to share with you, but I'm not going to share with you. You understand what I mean, right?
If you understand, I don't want to talk about it. That's
I don't talk about people is great. I don't want to talk about him. That suggests you have a lot to say about him.
You didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
That's called Avak Lashon Hara, the dust of Lashon Hara. And Avak Lashon Hara is also an Avera. And in Baba Basra Kuf Samech Dalet Amud Beis we learn that there are 3 things that one is not saved from, one stumbles on every single day. One of them is Lashon Hara. And the Gemara says, Lashon Hara, everybody speaks Lashon Hara every single day? The Gemara says no, but Avak Lashon Hara, yeah. The dust of Lashon Hara, that is Avak Lashon Hara. Boy say a riddle.
Because I don't want to Lashon Hara about him. I don't want to say that's only a mock Lashon Hara. It's not direct.
You didn't say anything.
Right, I'm saying that I have some Lashon Hara about him.
But you didn't say it. So it's only Avak Lashon Hara.
But isn't that Lashon Hara itself to say, I know Lashon Hara about him?
Yeah, but we said it in a different way. I don't want to do the Avera of Lashon Hara. I didn't say I have one. I don't want to say.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about him. Don't want to talk about people. Ve'al safam ya'ateh. The Metzora has to have a head covering. The Rambam says all the way to the upper lip. Hilchos Avel Perek Tes, I think, Perek Hey, Halacha Yutes. So since we're talking about covering one's head, question, is there ever a time that one has to cover his forehead? Ever heard of forehead covering? We heard of sheitel, we heard of all kinds of things. Head covering.
Yeah.
Forehead covering. He's not a Metzora. He's not an Avel. There's no Nedarim. The doctor didn't instruct him, you must cover, it's dangerous if you don't. No doctor's instruction. And yes, we're going to tell him, you better cover your forehead. When does this happen? Today. There's no Kohen Gadol today. Today. Lemaisa. Pilei Ploim. The Remak, that Moshe Cordovero wrote many Sforim. One of them is called Asis Rimoinim. In Daf Yud Ches, he brings from the Zohar HaKodesh. The Kaf HaChaim brings this twice. In Or HaChaim, Simin Taf Kuf Ayin Vav Seif Yud Aleph, and again in Yoredea, Kuf Tet Zayin Seif Dalet. The time there is a dever, COVID-19, if we'll define it as a dever, is a plague. Cover your forehead. Why? So Malach HaMaves won't be able to see the sins which are inscribed, they're written on your forehead. Once sins are on his forehead, and the Malach HaMaves comes, oh, hey, you, with me, come with me. So if you cover your forehead, you'll be protected. It's Mamisha Pilei Ploim. What's the definition of a dever? What is a plague? Shulchan Aruch defines that in Or HaChaim Taf Kuf Ayin Vav. If there's a city of 500 people, and 3 people died back-to-back days, in 3 days, that is a dever. If they all died in 1 day or in 4 days, that is not a dever. The Shulchan Aruch does some math, and he says if there's a city of 1,000 people, and 6 people died in 3 days, back-to-back, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that is a dever. If they all died in 1 day or in 4 days, that is not a dever. V'chen hala. Just do the multiplications. And he does add there that nashim, women, zkenim, and little kids are not included, not in the count of the dead people, not in the count of the people in the city. We're talking about healthy, fit males to make up these numbers.
What if it's 2 days, 3?
No. 3 days, 3 dead people. That's the definition of a dever. Hilchos Tzaraat. Where in Shulchan Aruch do we find Hilchos Tzaraat? Hilchos Tzaraat. Can it be that they're in Shulchan Aruch? Can it be that they're going to be in Shulchan Aruch? If they wouldn't be, I wouldn't ask. So Mistama they are in Shulchan Aruch. Where are they in Shulchan Aruch? Pilei Ploim. Hilchos Tefillin. Lamed Ches Yud Gimel Shulchan Aruch writes the Metzora ve'amenude asurim be'anachas Tefillin. A Metzora is not allowed to put on Tefillin. Yoredea Reish Samechei Seif Aleph Shulchan Aruch writes You have a negative prohibition. Don't cut off the baheres. If one has a lesion at tzaras, he's not allowed to cut it off. But you have a positive commandment called bris milah. What if the tzaras is in the same place? What do we do when aseh clashes with aloy saseh? The positive bangs into aloy saseh, it wins. The bris milah overrides the negative commandment of not to cut it off, and the Lemaisa says the Shulchan Aruch that if you have a bris milah in that place, it's Reish Samech Vav, not Reish Samech Hey. Reish Samech Vav Seif Aleph, you will cut off the baheres. We have two places in Shulchan Aruch where you have Hilchos Tzaras.
And then what happens only when someone never did a bris milah, because the baby doesn't speak Lashon.
So babies can't get Tzaras?
I guess maybe they can.
They can. A person who's mute can't get Tzaras? Is Tzaras coming only because of Lashon Hara? I think Chazal in Erchin count 10 different reasons why one can get Tzaras. And it's very contagious. And that's one of the reasons he has to go be secluded. It's a punishment, but it's very contagious. Highly contagious, Ibn Ezra. Tefillin and bris milah. Rabbi say, one who is bald, does he have to put tefillin? He doesn't have any hair, he's bald. He's losing his hair. Does he have to put tefillin on? What's the shaila, right? You think if it was so pashut I would ask it? Rabbeinu Rambam, Ilchos Tumas Tzaras, Perek Ches, Halacha Aleph, and again, Perek Tetzayin, Halacha Yud. Look how he defines Tzaras. Nefilas Ktsas Seyar, if you're losing your hair, a little. Or Hazakan, you're losing your hair or the beard. Karui Tzaras. That is called Tzaras. So if one loses his hair, he can't put on tefillin. We just said before, Allah meforesh Shulchan Aruch, Metzora is not allowed to put on tefillin. The Mikdash David asks, if that's the case, and the Rambam is right, how come in the Mishnah in Bechoros, Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, the Mishnah says that a person who's bald is disqualified la'avoida because that's the blemish. What do you have to say it's a blemish? Because it's tzaras, and it's tzaras anyways, you're not allowed to serve in Beis HaMikdash. It doesn't mean that he really was bald. Shinana, many times we find, in other places, Shinana. Shinana sounds like one who has big teeth, but what does that mean, big teeth? Maybe he's a little bigger than other people. Kereach, well, compared to other people, not that 100% kereach. Alei kereach. But what does that mean? Maybe it was more kereach than them. They're young kids, they still have their hair on. So the Midrash David asks about the Mishnah Bechoros. He was asked, how is it that we do see sometimes both people in shul that they put on tefillin? It's a problem. According to the Shita of the Rambam, that if you're losing your hair or you don't have any, and the Rambam also writes that tzaras is noyeg in chutz la'aretz. So no matter where you are in Eretz Yisrael or chutz la'aretz, if you don't have hair, seemingly you can't put on tefillin. So the one who asked the question to the Fakasta De'anya wants to answer, and he says, you know why? Maybe because tzaras, whether you're Torah or not, is dependent on the Kohen. And today, all we have is Kohanei Chazaka. We don't have bona fide Kohen. So maybe because we don't have a Kohen to say that you are for sure Tamet Tzaras, Mimele, they can continue to put on tefillin. That's what he wanted to suggest to the Afakasta De'anya. But the Afakasta De'anya says to him, I see your question, and I see your answer, but your whole question is wrong. What propelled you to ask the question is that you saw in the Rambam that the Rambam says that if you're losing some of your hair, or you lost all your hair, you're considered a Metzora. Says the Afakasta De'anya, wait a second, you got too far with it. You're saying like this, you said a Kal V'chomer. If you're losing some of your hair, so you're considered Metzora. So if you lost all your hair, for sure you're Metzora. That's incorrect. Because you have to have a shear. The shear is Kegris Ve'yoisel, let's say a shekel or 2 shekel size of a coin, has to be surrounded with hairs all over, a discoloration of the skin. You have to have some yellowish tone to it. Maybe if you don't have that, you're not a Metzora. You're bald. You don't have any hair. Many people will experience that throughout their life. I know some of them personally. But you're not considered a kereach, and therefore you're not considered a Metzora, and therefore your question doesn't even start. Bashal Shuvas Mishneh Halachos, Chelik Yudalef Perek Lamed says, from the fact that the Shulchan Aruch writes this, that means it's noyek today. Mishnah Shulchan Aruch doesn't write halachos lemeshicha. That's Aruch HaShulchan. He wrote Aruch HaShulchan HaAsid, and the Rambam speaks about everything. But Shulchan Aruch wrote those halachos that pertain to today. So what are you running about bris milah? What are you running about tefillin? Mimele, he proves from here that Tzaraat is noyeg today.
What happens when someone is diagnosed and after bar mitzvah?
He's diagnosed and then what?
After bar mitzvah. Does he have to bar mitzvah?
He's diagnosed and what?
And after bar mitzvah.
Can you read saying?
After bar mitzvah.
After bar mitzvah? Yeah.
Does he have to bar mitzvah?
If he's diagnosed as the Metzora by the Kohen, Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to.
But the machla, I know the machla.
Why wouldn't he put on tefillin?
There's the hair.
We're saying it's wrong. A person who doesn't have hair is not considered Metzora. It's considered kereach. It's a bald, but there's no issue with him putting on tefillin, and he's obligated to put on tefillin. Since we're speaking about Lashon Hara, terrible ma'aseh. There's a doctor that works in a hospital. In the afternoon, he has a private clinic. His daughter works for him as a nurse. She noticed something very interesting. Every day when he comes back from the hospital, his pockets are... She notices in the clinic syringes, bandages, ointments, and pills that she knows were not ordered from. She knows, she runs the place. She knows what they order from, who they order from, what. This was not in the order, and suddenly it keeps coming every single day. And his pockets. He steals from the hospital. Tati, daddy, Abba, father, whatever she calls him, you're not allowed to steal. So initially, he denied. I don't know what you're talking about. She continued. And this guy is a big Talmid Chochem. Not. He's moire heter le'atzmo. He found a heter. He says, look, you're not allowed to muzzle the animal when it's plowing, right? I'm like that animal work. You see that Kodesh Baruch Hu says when you're working, you're allowed to take from whatever it is that your work environment. So Ashur, how much more so me? Guy's Meshiga. Why is he Meshiga? First of all, the Torah is talking about Ashur, not talking about humans. Second of all, the Torah is talking about when the animal is working. The show doesn't take lunch for later. Not shayach. But is moire heter le'atzmo. The nurse, his daughter now comes and asks a question. Can I report to the hospital? Should I call the guard? When my father leaves, check him out. Should I report to management? One of your doctors is a top doctor. Best doctor. But he's also a best thief. He's very good at what he does. Every single day he takes more stuff. Does she have to report her father or not? What's the shayla? If it was someone else, of course we would report him. But when you're reporting your father, not only are you stopping the theft, great, but you're also disgracing your father. The biggest disgrace. He's going to be fired. Everybody's going to be talking about him. His son is going to be in the papers. Mevaze avi ve'imo. Causing disgrace. The Kodesh Baruch Hu says you're cursed. Arur makle avi ve'imo. Arur, curse. Is he allowed to do it or not?
So if we go with this, if the daughter knows the father is your murderer, she should not report it.
Is there a difference between killing someone and stealing? Is there a difference?
If she didn't say that, she didn't identify that she was the daughter.
She's not going to say she's his daughter, but lemaise, her father will be disgraced by her actions. Is she allowed to do this?
I missed, what was he doing wrong? He was taking...
Nothing wrong. It was just stealing from the hospital. Every single day he comes with his pockets like this.
Okay.
Bandages, pills, and medicines, and syringes, whatever you want. Can she report?
I think no, because he goes to police and his father was trying to grab him and told him to stop him and take him to court. So I did him to the hunting and then there was a Stein and he said no because it's about I see also that's about.
So you don't care that he keeps stealing from the hospital? You don't care?
Like your father driving 200 miles per hour instead of 50.
I think that if your father, I don't know where you saw this question, where you saw the answer.
Not shopping.
You have to look inside. We have to look inside. But similarly, if your father is driving 200 miles an hour, you must report. And you don't have a lot of time to report because he's going to go into a car accident very, very soon. And not only will he suffer, I don't know what he's going to suffer, the other people will as well. It's a mitzvah deoraisa to get him off the road as soon as possible. Soon as possible.
There was it's actually based, but the son of Menashe disgraced him and his levaya, right? That he almost flag and stuff.
And Chachamim praised him. Should be a kapara. Should be a kapara for him. After one's demise, is it different than one is still alive? And do we recommend to people to do that to their fathers after they die? Not so sure about that.
Maybe there's a different way she could stop him.
And that is?
She'll tell
Tie him up.
If he doesn't stop, she'll tell him, if you don't stop, I'm going to report it.
Threaten him, and if it doesn't work? I like that, and if it doesn't work? It doesn't work. Push comes to shove. What does she do now? Does she have a heter to report or not?
Maybe a bit silly, wouldn't he?
What's that?
He loses his job.
She will also lose her job if she reports because he's going to fire her.
Why?
What is the definition? Halech achar beis din yafe. That's the Gemara Darshan in Shavuos Daf Lamed. Halech, find the best beis din. And there's many other interpretations of the Gemara as well. He didn't tell her what to do. He didn't ask her to participate in his theft. He's just doing it on his own. Just stay out of this one. It's not for you. Does she have a mitzvah to report? He's definitely doing something against her. Does she have the obligation to stop him? That's exactly what she wants to know. Does she have the right, the obligation? Maybe she's not allowed to. Because here, it's not just time you're reporting someone else. It's mevaze aviv. Not only are you required in kibudav, you're required not to be mevaze your father. Arur makle aviv eimo. Curse is the person who disgraces his parents.
She was to wear up, do his rub, and make it in a way that he rebukes, without saying that she was the one reporting it. And he takes him, and then the rab threatens, no, you don't fix it, I have to report you. So she's out of the picture. He she initiated, but they said that she's not, he doesn't even know that it was her.
The author of the Shalmei Nisan discusses this shayla, and he says that he wants to ask her. Why? Chafetz Chaim allows you to speak Yechilus when it's leto'elis. But that's about other people, not about your father. Why? Because when you speak about your father, it's to'elis that is going to stop the theft. But you still have a problem, a side problem called kibudav and disgracing your father. So he says, just like you will never allow to do gilui arayos and shfichus damim and everything else in the Torah if it's leto'elis. You don't have that heter. It's a unique heter leto'elis for rechilus for other people. But once you have a new problem called kibudav, so am I allowed sometimes to do certain averos because the toilet is something else? It's an avera. And therefore he wants to answer it. However, we have proofs that one will be able to. The Sefer Hasidim, surprising Sefer Hasidim. Taf, Reish, Pei, Zayin. Sefer Hasidim says, if you see somebody coming to deposit money by your father, your mother, or your Rebbe, very interesting that he throws the Rebbe inside as well. And you know your father, your mother, or your Rebbe are not very honest. Why is he your Rebbe if you know he's not honest? I don't know. You can't choose your parents, but you can choose your Rebbe. But he says, Reuven comes to deposit $1,000 by your father, and you know your father is not going to handle it in the most honest way. If the Reuven, the one who's depositing the money, is an honest ish hagun v'talmid chochem, you should tell him, listen, you put the money here, you're never going to see it back. You should tell this person, my father doesn't know how to handle other people's money, and don't put money here. And if he is not an ish hagun, if the one who's depositing money is not, so you're not allowed to say about your father, my father is a rasha. Motion to I didn't say anything. That's what Sefer Hasidim says. What's the story? Sefer Hasidim is a Rishon. Where did he see this? Maybe he saw it in Megillah. Megillah Daf Yud Gimel. The Gemara says, Rachel Imenu said to Yaakov, my father is a Ramai. He's a liar. You won't be able to fight him. Who gave you permission? Sefer Hasidim says you're not allowed to say about your father, my father is a rasha. Who gave her permission? Yaakov Avinu is Talmid Chochem, Hagun. So he made it, Sefer Hasidim says, to a person like that you can say the truth. As she was warning him, my father doesn't every so often he cheats and he lies. It's his whole essence. Lavan ha-arami, same letter as haramai. This is him. This is what he does. This is his being. This is his essence. Mimele lichoira, you see that you are able to do this, to stop. Imagine, there's a patient, a father who's a patient, and in order to save his life, you have to take his clothes off. So you're not allowed to do this? I'm going to embarrass my father. You're going to save his life. Of course you have to. So to save him from going to hell? Forever and ever and ever? How much more do you have to do this? So lichoira, you should report. If the daughter knows that if she will report management to the guard, her father's going to be so upset at her, he's going to hate her, and he's going to fire her. Does she have to lose her job over this? Lichoira, yeah. Even though we say kibudav mishel av, I don't have to spend money on the mitzvah of kibudav. Kibudav, if it costs money, it's from the father's money. But this is not that I have to spend money. I'm just not gaining money. I'm going to be fired. That means I'm not going to generate more income. But it's not like I have to spend money. Lichoira is going to have to report. I think it's pretty clear. However, Maran Ephraim Kanievsky, a big chiddush, and he says, Lichoira, the management of the Kupat Cholim, the hospital, wherever this man works, they know that the values of these generations are so low, and people do take stuff. And the more heter le'atzmam, and people say, what did I take? You see it happens a lot when people use the printer of their office for personal needs. Divrei Torah, when I say something on the Shabbos table, it's also called stealing. And using the phone for private conversations, and stealing time. Just not working at the same time that they're supposed to be working. So a lot of people are involved in theft. So the management knows this, and it's worth it for the management to keep a good doctor, knowing that every so often he'll take a few things into his pocket. And what the doctor says, which is ridiculous, the muscle of the animal, there's a base up to it. We find it in the Gemara, this claim. Chulin Davav Amud Beis, a wife of an Am Haaretz, when she grinds the wheat with the wife of a Talmid Chochem, she says to herself while eating a little, just like the animal, you can't mulch it, I can too. Same thing. So we find this ridiculous claim appears already. The more things change, the more they stay the same. This is a 2,000-year-old claim. Not that it's right. Chas v'sholem. It's 100% wrong. But since the base, the management of the hospital is moichen, it's worth it for them. It's like, when you have in the market these open stands of nuts and stuff like that, they take into account a certain percent of their budget. They take a calculation that people will come and they will just take and continue walking. They're not planning to eat. It's part of advertisement, it's part of PR. It's good for them. They're aware that people steal. We're not encouraging it. It's terrible behavior. But since they're moichel, mimele, says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, she doesn't have to report. Obviously, not if he starts stealing equipment worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Of course not. But the stuff that we're mentioning, like bandages, syringes, pills, and things like that. Similar. What's that? Right. 100% wrong. But lichora, she doesn't have to report because of that. Similar question. A kid who's working by his father in a little grocery, and some people don't pay immediately. He said, just write it. Cohen family, Levy family, I owe you another 100 shekels. Instead of writing, he owed me another, he writes, he owes me another 150. He rounds things up by 50, 100, 250, 500, 1,000 shekels. The kid says to his father, Daddy, what are you doing? Stealing. No, it's fine, it's fine. Does the kid have to resign? I'm no longer working for you. Or does he have to, what does he have to do? This Shaila went to Rabbi Elioshiv Zatzal. And Rabbi Elioshiv says, look at the Ran in Kiddushin. The Ran writes, famous Maisa we all know, Dama ben Esina. Chachmei Yisrael needed the stone for the breastplate of the Kohen, the stone of Binyamin, Yashfeh. And this guy, Dama ben Esina and Ashkelon had it. So they went over to him, and he said, I would love to sell it to you. It's only 600,000 dinars. No big deal, right? But what can I do? My father is sleeping, and the key for where I keep it is right under his legs on top of this box. I'm sorry. So Dan asked, why do you have to lose money as a result of kibudav? Kibudav, mishel av, not mishel ben. So you don't have to lose money. So the Ran answers, two answers. Either, you're right, that kibudav is mishel av, but in order not to disgrace the father, that's a lot aseh. You have to lose all the money that you have. And second of all, this is not losing money. This is not gaining money. So for these two reasons, in our case, the daughter has to report her father. Either because she has to lose everything she owns in order not to disgrace him, or because it's not that you're losing money, you're not gaining money, and you're causing an embarrassment. Aru makle aviv ve'imo. Cursed is a person who is disgracing his parents. So Lemaise we have a Machloikis, Rebbe Yoshiv, and his son-in-law, Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Rebbe Yoshiv says, you must report. In the case of the Makoret, the grocery, the son would have to report, the son would have to resign. And in the case of the daughter reporting her father, Reb Chaim Kanievsky says about the daughter, doesn't have to report, Machloikis. Since we're talking about nurses, listen to this Maise. There is a head nurse who's very negligent. Very negligent. The right thing to do is to report her to management, so she should be fired. The only thing is, she's pregnant now. And we think that if we report her, she may take it to heart so much, it's going to cause her such anxiety and stress and pressure, she may miscarry. Can we, should we report, or wait until after she delivers? Yep. The pressure, the anxiety of being fired, of everybody's talking about it, it's going to be in the papers.
What damage is she doing? What is damage she doing?
She's negligent. It's endangering patients. Potentially. But if you're saying to report, what did the embryo do wrong? He didn't sin. Why are you endangering him? And this is imminent.
I would say she should speak to her doctor, for the doctor to speak to her of the knowledge of that, which would then lessen. Either she stops, she doesn't stop, then she's aware of the fact of that somebody.
So you're saying threaten her. If we find out one more time that you're doing this, we're going to report. She did it one more time. Should we report and kill the baby? What did the baby do wrong? She did do something wrong. What did the baby do wrong?
But it's not positive that she will.
It's also not positive that she will endanger other patients. But she's negligent. Who's the oidif? She's the oidif to the baby or to the patients?
To the patients.
What about to the baby? You want to be a oidif to the baby?
The mother of the child. Now, hey, she's causing other people maybe to lose their life. So in this case, you have to stop the mother. No, you have to stop the child.
But what did the baby do to you? What did the baby do to you? You're a oidif to him. Mida keneged mida, oidif keneged oidif.
She's harming people.
She's not harming. It's by being passive and not being attentive to them. She's negligent, and potentially she may cause harm. We may cause harm a little more actively.
This is a fake grandma, right?
On which side? On her and ours?
On the fact that she was the baby. It's the first time we say grandma, and secondly, it's a fact that she will lose the baby or not. It's not a certainty, right?
And therefore report her.
So I think that's the grandma who don't act on it.
A doctor by the name of Uriel Levinger, internist in Beilinson, wrote about this. And he wrote that it's not known that stress or pressure of this type will cause a woman to miscarry. In fact, some doctors did some studies, and they didn't find that in time of a war, there are more women who miscarry. And by the time you report, usually in a big hospital, it takes a lot of time until it goes from one department to the other, and they investigate it. By that time, she's going to deliver. Mimele, he didn't find any correlation between reporting and the anxiety, stress that she's going to feel to miscarrying the baby, and therefore he holds that you definitely should report, because at the same time, potentially, she is causing a potential threat to their lives, to the lives of other patients, and therefore you must report. Good. However, we find a sefer called Choshen Ha'efod. Choshen Ha'efod is Rabbi David Pipano. He was in Saloniki, and then he moved to Sofia, Bulgaria. He was the chief rabbi of Bulgaria about a little more than 100 years ago. And in Simin Mem Gimel he writes that even though we don't find that Chachamim push off a woman is invited to Beis Din. Oh, she's pregnant? Oh, okay, so let's wait until you deliver. We don't find that. But if she says, I feel that I'm going to miscarry if I'm going to come to your Beis Din, too much pressure. So he says we push it off. Kal v'chomer, he says from Shabbos, Yom Kippur. Do you violate Shabbos, which is skila, Yom Kippur, which is kares, to save a baby, an embryo? Yes, you do. So if you're willing to violate Shabbos, Yom Kippur, so wait a little until after the delivery. So Lechora, he says you should consider this, even though it's only based on her claim, not the doctor's claim. But there's a big chiluk between the two. Over there, when they wanted to take her to the Beis Din, who says it's about money? Who says maybe there's some kind of a fight between neighbors about you're blocking my light, whatever it is. And second of all, over there, you're not endangering anyone. Over here, what about the other patients? That as long as we don't report you, you're endangering their lives. It made that you can't compare this case. And more than that, if we complain, maybe it will stop her from sinning. And that in itself will deliver a segula for the baby to be born healthy. Right now, when she is involved in whatever she's involved, she's doing everything wrong. That in itself, she's causing more spiritual damage to the baby. Araya to this from the Rema. The Rema says, some say we don't make a woman who's pregnant take a shvuah. Wait till after she delivers. The Urim V'Tumim, Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz over there wonders about this. He says, what are you talking about? Isha Soita. If she's pregnant, do we take her to Beis Hamidrash and make her drink that bit of water? Of course we do. Oh, what happens if she's going to explode? The baby will die as well. And we don't care. So the Chassam Sofer says, I don't understand the question of the Urim V'Tumim. Don't understand him. But the Isha Soita, if she did something wrong, we want her to explode. It's not about the baby, it's about her. So we don't make her take a shvuah, what the Rema said, because we are careful not about the baby, about her. Because that stress and anxiety can cause a person to die, and not just stress and anxiety. Shvuas emes, Gitin Lamed He Amud Aleph, we learn even a shvuas emes can cause a person to die. How much more so a shvuas sheker? That's what the Gemara says over there. Mimele, we're not worried about the baby, we're worried about her. But in Isha Soita, we're not worried about her. She has special protection from HaKadosh Baruch Hu if she is pure, because now everything will be great for her, as the Torah promises. But if she did something wrong, we want to get rid of her. Maybe you can't compare the two. So we don't take into account what seems to our eyes, and especially the doctor told us that it doesn't seem that there's any correlation. We must try and stop her from potentially harming those patients, and from doing something wrong. She has to be ne'emenes in her melachta, and therefore we must report. Of doing what? I don't know if she has the chazak of harming, she has the chazak of being negligent. And that we must stop, because the result of that may translate into people's death, and even if they're not dying, people are being harmed. Abu Yisrael, last shayla that we live with, 18 years ago, Hey Iyar Tafshin Sameches. What's Hey Iyar? Yom Ha'atzmaut. So some wise people on Yom Ha'atzmaut, they choose, if they have a day off, they don't have to work, they go to shul. The Barbi Rav Dechad Yom, many places have Yemei Iyun, and people give him comes lectures, and he has more time to sit and learn by himself, or the Chavrusa. But some people do other things. And some people go to see an air show. And sometimes there are major air shows. 18 years ago there was one like that in Tel Aviv, by the beach, where they have many fighter jets and parachute show, crazy things. Thousands of people gather to see this. This parachutist is about to do something that never seen before. He's gonna jump from the plane holding this Israeli flag and doing all kinds of somersaults, whatever he does. Everybody's, what's that? Stunts, major stunts that the world has never seen before. Everybody's very excited, they announce it, and everybody's looking up. He starts jumping. Everything is calculated, everything. He knows exactly where he's supposed to land in the water, and suddenly a wind from windland comes that there was never a wind like that. And this wind moves him hundreds of meters, and he lands in the middle of all the crowd. It looks like mamish, like a battlefield. Blood. Many people were injured severely. He was injured. Ambulances, the whole place is disaster. Ad kana maisa that happened. What would happen if this comes to Beis Din and the spectators say, you have to pass. Look what you did. Look at the damage. And he says, wow. You know how many times I jumped out of the plane? Thousands of times. Everything is calculated. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my responsibility. I was supposed to land hundreds of meters away. This crazy wind, go and sue the wind. It has nothing to do with me. I'm complete oinus. Does he have to pay or not? Can it be that the Dayan residing in this Beis Din will ask, we're 2 weeks after Pesach now, right? Can it be that he will ask those people who were injured, did you eat kidneys on Pesach? Can it be that he will ask the parachutist himself, did you eat kitnios on Pesach? And because of that, they will decide who has to pay. Kitnios on Pesach can be very harmful. Fine. You say, I'm allowed to eat it. Did you eat? You have a problem. You didn't eat? You're good to go. Or the reverse. Can it be? What's the connection?
So you have to be asking that question?
Can it be that this is the question that's going to determine the outcome?
Could be, I just don't know how.
I agree. I agree to the first part that it can be. Let's see if there's any connection. Rabbi said, does he have to pay or not? Let's say without the kitnios. Throw the kitnios away. All Ashkenazim. Does he have to pay or not? Oines. Oines, does he have to pay or not? No. And Adam Muad Le'olam doesn't count. What does Adam Muad Le'olam? What's the word Le'olam means? No matter what. Grama benezikin patu. That's what is grama. Indirect. When your body lands on someone and harms him, that's not gamma. You yourself did it. There's no gamma. There's no more direct damage than that. Gamma is if I, by mistake, pushed something and then it rolled and it went there and it went there and ultimately you find itself and it damaged somebody else's car or body. Himself, his body is damaging somebody else. That's not gamma. That's direct damage. If you want, you can charge the wind for being a gamma on his body. The wind was the gamma. His body was the direct damage. The organizer needs to know that he is a gamma. The organizer needs to know there's going to be nobody predicted such a wind. It was a beautiful day.
I understand, but they usually insure against accidents and things that can happen.
Maybe there's insurance. And if there isn't an insurance, I want to know if an oinus like this is exempt or not. That's the shayla.
I would say yes.
Yes, what?
It's potter from
paying?
From paying, because of the fact that this was a ruach meshuya.
Very meshuya. Ruach she'eina metzuya.
Exactly, it's very meshuya. So that's not something that was expected.
Right.
Unless you say the fact that he should have checked whether prior.
We checked, and it was clear it's going to be a beautiful day. Suddenly.
So it's no meshuya.
Oinus. Good. What about Adam Muad Le'olam? Le'olam means even Ruach She'eina Metzuya?
Yes.
Or Le'olam, parentheses, except for Ruach She'eina Metzuya. So you're saying you're chazer, you're saying you're retracting. He's chayav to pay.
No.
How could it be?
No. I still say that he's part.
Nobody addresses the kitnios, Shaila. I didn't forget about the kitnios. Avoy says the Gemara in Baba Kama, Chaf Vav Amud Aleph. Chaf Vav Amud Beis. The Gemara darshans a pasuk from Parshas Mishpatim. Petza, Tachas, Patza. Lechayev ala shoygeg kamezid. One who does something b'shoygeg, he is chayev just like if he would done it intentionally. Ve'ala oines kirotzoin. A man is chayav for damages that he inflicts on others as if he did it willingly. Oines. But what is? It's a complete oines. There is an oines, but there is a complete oines. Oines gamur. So that is a machlokes. Tosis and the Rosh discusses what is the definition of an oines. Is it something that I could have never predicted, could have never avoided? For example, I'm a skilled, experienced parachuter. I've been doing it for many years, hundreds, thousands of times. And we checked all the measurements and the wind. It's supposed to be the most perfect day, and it's hundreds of meters away. That's a complete oinus. In that case, am I also going to be chayav? It's a machlokes lemaise Shulchan Aruch in Rema. The Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat Shin Ayin Ches Seif Aleph says ben shehaya shoygeg, ben shehaya oinus, one is chayav. The Rema says you're right. V'dafka she'eino oinus gamur. If it's a complete, very unpredictable thing, you could have never imagined this will happen. According to the Rema, this will be exempt. Shulchan Aruch over there in Seif Beis brings an example. Ruach she'eina metzuya. Mila, now we understand why the Dayan asked, do you eat kitnios? If you're eating kitnios, that means you're a Sephardi. Unless you're a follower of Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai also doesn't eat kitnios. He adopted the Rema, some Moroccans as well. But in general, Sephardim eat kitnios on Pesach. So if you're saying you eat kitnios on Pesach, Mr. Parachuter, that means you have to pay. because the Shulchan Aruch says that even oines gamur you have to pay. What if those people who were hurt, the spectators, are Sephardim, and the parachuter is Ashkenazi? So he says, I'm sorry, the Rama exempt me. It's the reverse. The spectators who were injured are Ashkenazi. The guy who hurt him, the parachuter, is Sephardi. So they say, you have to pay us, you're Sephardi. He says, I would love to pay you, but what can I do? You're not allowed to accept the money because the Rama said I'm exempt. So therefore the Dayan must ask, Aboisai, is Sephardi, do you get up the whole month of Elul for Slichos? What do you do? You're Ashkenazi or Sephardi? Lichoira, in order to determine this, we need to know it's a machlokes between the Rama and the Shulchan Aruch. However, there are some poskim that maintain that the chilukim that we have between Sephardim and Ashkenazim are in Orach Chaim. And those are halachos that are knowing every single day. Blessings, tfilos, moyadim, Shabbos, Yontif. But when you have a machlokes like this in Choshen Mishpat, it's not the Shulchan Aruch and the Rama arguing and the Minhag of Ashkenaz. It's their representing, for whatever reason, the opinions of other Rishonim. There are many Rishonim who have a machlokes. Rabbeinu Tam and the Rosh says a person is oines gamur, he is patu. The Ramban, and many understanding the das of the Rambam, says it's chayav. It happens to be that in this machlokes, the Rema holds like those opinions, the Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam who says patu, and the Shulchan Aruch took the other stand, but not for, because we're ethnic, we're Sephardim, hold like this Ashkenazim. So many say that it wouldn't pertain, and Lechora, based on that, we don't care how much kitnios you eat or you don't eat on Pesach. It's just what they're going to decide in Beis Din, and Lechora, based on that, even if the parachutist is a Sephardi, he can say, Kimli, I hold like this, and this one like the Rema, who says pato, and Lechora, he will be pato. There should be a question only lahalach and only lemase, and Mitzvah Hashem, everybody who does have a day off should spend it in Beis HaMedrash. Good Shabbos, Rabbi Yisrael.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.